What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to get into today's discussion because you knew it was inevitable with this player. That being from a report that came out last night at the time of recording this. Mike Puma, who covers the Mets through the New York Post, came out with an article stating how the Mets are already planning to speak to numerous players in free agency through Scott Boras, who's the agent of these players, a lot of them, and one of them is in fact Kris Bryant. So we'll be getting into the connection between Kris Bryant and the Mets, the current interest here. What is the likelihood of Bryant even landing in Queens? How would this fit the Mets roster? Is this the best route for them to go down or not? What kind of contract could Bryant be looking for in free agency that the Mets could potentially land him on? That's what we'll be breaking down in today's video. So as always, folks, make sure you stay all the way till the end of it for all the details and all my thoughts on Kris Bryant and his current connection to the New York Mets. If you guys ended up enjoying this Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you all so much for the continued support, folks. But without further ado, let's jump right into today's video. I'm sorry, you didn't actually think Kris Bryant wouldn't be sought after by the Mets in this year's free agency, did you? He's been connected to the Mets going back to last offseason throughout the entire existence of this channel, right around a full calendar year, which the Mets have been tagged to KB because they've been looking for an upgrade at third base. We're not able to get it, not prior to the season really, not at the MLB trade deadline, and because of that, they finished 2021 with one of the worst DRSs, which is defense runs saved at the position of third base, with around -15 or so. So rest assured, regardless on who's currently in front office as GM, with Sam Yellerson currently in GM meetings representing the Mets, they know that positions definitely need upgrades this offseason, and third base is for sure one of them. And what makes Kris Bryant appealing outside of him being connected to the Mets for this long is also the fact that he is in fact a free agent. He's not someone that the Mets have to cough up assets for that they would have had to last offseason and during the year. So as long as they outbid opposing suitors looking for Kris Bryant on their club, they could land KB to a potentially reasonable deal that will still be expensive, because reports are indicating KB could be right around a George Springer contract from last offseason, which was 5 years at $150 million. He could loom right around 6 years, $160 million. Could be more, could be less. We'll see what happens, but no less, KB is going to be getting a pretty penny. But for a guy that just came out of his 11th season in the league after splitting time with the Chicago Cubs and then being traded at the deadline to, yes, the San Francisco Giants, was an all-star in 2021, a huge bounce back year after a down 2020 campaign dealing with injuries in that shortened year as well, is someone that has hit 25, 35 bombs in his career without a problem, over 100 RBIs in multiple seasons, is a proven winner, has won a World Series during his time in Chicago, has been a playoff MVP and overall MVP, and entering his age 30 season is going to be a hot commodity for many teams in this year's free agency, hand in hand because of his versatility. And that's what makes this so interesting for the Mets here, and I fully believe that we're going to talk about him plenty in other videos and live streams throughout the offseason up until he has a decision made on his future, because KB's someone that fits very different than other potential third base options in either the trade market or the free agent market, because he has versatility, and this gives the Mets the option to not necessarily just prioritize him at third base, but even at corner outfield. After Michael Conforto looking even far more uncertain on his future with the Mets from declining his $18.4 million qualifying offer that we discussed on the channel, video in the description down below. As always, the Mets might pursue Kris Bryant more so in an outfield option right now, and maybe go for someone else as a third base option, whether that's a trade or a free agent route or vice versa. But what makes him even more important here is that regardless if they prioritize him as a corner outfield option that he can handle just fine, or third base, this would allow the Mets to have a potential long-term fit with their top prospect at third base, and yes, Brett Baty. He's been killing it, and he looks like a guy that could be hitting the bigs within the next calendar year or so for sure. And if Baty's ready to go and the Mets don't want to part ways with him in a trade, don't want to block him from having a future in the organization, KB makes even that much more sense, knowing that if you have him at third base, you can have him there up until Baty's ready to go. Then you could have KB in the corner outfields as long as you don't have any long-term commitments there. Or you could go the route of having KB in the corner outfields right away, having a different short-term option at third base potentially, and then Brett Baty would be ready to go by the time whoever's at third base then would be up and his contract would be done, or if he's traded, something along those lines. So the Mets are going to get very creative this offseason. Again, it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about things with the front office uncertainties at this point. I'm looking forward to hopefully them getting a hire in place for at least the GM and then manager and all that other fun stuff. But no less, Kris Bryant has been tagging the Mets for so long, and having that connection with his former former teammate and Javi Baez could make things even further enticing for this soon-to-be 30-year-old third baseman and corner outfielder, knowing that if, say, the Mets re-sign Javi Baez fairly soon to a deal, that could make Kris Bryant even have further interest in landing with the Mets versus opposing clubs, knowing that he could be in that infield with his longtime friend and former teammate in Javi Baez. What a duo they were during their times in Chicago, and what a duo would be again, and really a trio between Baez at second base, Lindor at short, and Kris Bryant at potentially third, if not the corner outfield. And yes, I know Javi Baez will be looking for a pretty penny in free agency also. The Mets can afford to have an infield that requires at least $100 million from their second baseman and third baseman, along with the Francisco Lindor long-term contract, just fine. It's just a matter of how much further are they going to go over the luxury tax threshold. We will soon find out in the coming weeks to months throughout the offseason, folks. So make sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments. As always, how do you feel about Kris Bryant, a potential fit for the Mets at either third base, corner outfield, and having that versatility to not be committed to long-term that would originally prohibit a guy like Brett Beatty from coming up at third base? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments as always, folks. And again, if you ended up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe on, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell. All is great things. Thank you all so much for the continued support, folks, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's go Mets, baby.